Imagine finding a penny in your pocket that looks completely ordinary, but could actually be worth hundreds, even thousands of dollars. Now picture this: millions of people have handled this exact coin without realizing what they were holding. Today, we're uncovering the story of the 1969 D Mint Mark Lincoln penny, a coin that quietly hides value, history, and surprising secrets. The 1969 D Lincoln penny is a 1-cent coin produced by the United States Mint in Denver. At first glance, it looks just like any other penny from the late 1960s. It features the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the back. The small D mint mark below the date tells you it was struck in Denver, one of the main U.S. minting facilities. But behind that simple design is a story shaped by economic pressure, changing materials, and collector fascination. To understand this coin, we need to step back into the late 1960s. America was going through a period of inflation and rising metal prices. Just a few years earlier, in 1965, the U.S. government removed silver from circulating coins because it had become too expensive. While pennies were still made mostly of copper, even that metal was starting to increase in value. The mint had to produce billions of coins quickly and efficiently to keep up with demand. In 1969, the Denver Mint struck over 2.8 billion pennies. That number might sound enormous, and it is. It means this coin is not rare in the traditional sense of low mintage. In fact, millions of these pennies are still out there today. But here's where things get interesting. Not all 1969 D pennies are equal, and that's exactly why collectors pay close attention to them. Let's talk about what this coin is made of. The 1969 D penny is composed of 95% copper and 5% zinc. It weighs about 3.11 grams and has that classic reddish-brown color when it's in new condition. Over time, many of these coins turn darker, developing a brown tone as they age. Some fall somewhere in between, known as red-brown. These color differences actually matter to collectors and can significantly affect value. The design itself is simple but iconic. On the front, you see Abraham Lincoln facing right, a design that has been used since 1909. Above his head is the word Liberty, and the date 1969 appears to the right. Just below the date is the small D mint mark. On the back, the Lincoln Memorial stands tall, with the words United States of America and 1 cent clearly displayed. If you look closely, you can even see a tiny image of Lincoln inside the memorial, making this one of the few coins in the world to feature the same person on both sides. Now, you might be wondering, if billions were made, why would anyone pay serious money for this coin? The answer lies in condition, errors, and collector demand. First, condition is everything. Most 1969 D pennies have been heavily circulated. They've been used in everyday transactions, dropped, scratched, and worn down over decades. But a small number were preserved in near-perfect condition. These are called uncirculated coins, and they still have their original shine. Within this category, there are even higher grades, often labeled as mint state with numbers like MS65, MS66, or higher. The better the condition, the more valuable the coin becomes. A typical circulated 1969 D penny might only be worth 1 to 5 cents, but in high-grade uncirculated condition, that same coin can sell for $10, $20, or even over $100 depending on its quality. And in rare cases, exceptionally well-preserved examples have reached even higher prices at auction. But condition is only part of the story. Errors are where things get truly exciting. During the minting process, mistakes can happen. These mistakes create error coins, and collectors love them because they are unique. For the 1969 D penny, some of the most sought-after errors include off-center strikes, die cracks, and repunched mint marks. An off-center strike happens when the coin is not properly aligned during minting, leaving part of the design missing. These coins can look unusual and eye-catching, and depending on how dramatic the error is, they can be worth anywhere from $20 to several $100s. Die cracks are another type of error. These appear as raised lines on the coin caused by small fractures in the minting die. While minor cracks are common and not very valuable, larger and more noticeable ones can increase a coin's appeal to collectors. Then there's the repunched mint mark. This happens when the D mint mark is stamped more than once in slightly different positions. On some 1969 D pennies, you can see a faint doubling effect around the mint mark. These varieties are not extremely rare, but they are collectible and can sell for higher prices than regular coins. Now, it's important not to confuse the 1969 D penny with the famous 1969 S double die penny. That particular coin, minted in San Francisco, is one of the most valuable Lincoln cents ever made, with some examples selling for tens of thousands of dollars. Because of this, many people mistakenly believe their 1969 D penny might be worth the same. Unfortunately, the Denver version does not have that same dramatic doubling, but it can still hold value in the right condition or with the right error. So how can you tell if your 1969 D penny is valuable or just ordinary? Start by checking the date and mint mark carefully. Make sure the D is clearly visible below the date. Next, examine the coin's condition. Does it still have a bright, original shine, or is it dark and worn? Coins with minimal wear and strong details are more desirable. Then look closely for errors. Use a magnifying glass if possible. Check the edges of the design, the lettering, and especially the mint mark. If you notice anything unusual like doubling or misalignment, you might have something special. Weight is another simple test. A genuine 1969 D penny should weigh around 3.11 grams. If it's significantly lighter or heavier, it could be altered or counterfeit. While counterfeit pennies are not very common, they do exist, especially for coins that are believed to be valuable. Another tip is to compare your coin with verified images from trusted sources. Small details can make a big difference, and having a reference can help you spot variations more easily. Here's something many people don't realize. Even though the 1969 D penny is not considered rare in terms of mintage, finding one in perfect condition today is surprisingly difficult. Most of these coins have spent decades in circulation. That's why collectors are willing to pay a premium for high-grade examples. It's not about how many were made, but how many survived in excellent condition. There are also some fascinating details about this coin that often go unnoticed. For example, the Lincoln Memorial design used on the reverse was first introduced in 1959 to celebrate Lincoln's 150th birthday. It remained in use until 2008, making it one of the longest-running coin designs in U.S. history. The 1969 D penny is part of that long legacy, representing a time when America was transitioning through major economic and social changes. Another interesting fact is that copper pennies like the 1969 D are actually worth more than 1 cent just for their metal content. Although it's illegal to melt them down for profit, the intrinsic value of the copper itself has increased over time. This adds another layer of interest for collectors and investors. Today, the 1969 D Lincoln penny continues to attract attention from both beginners and experienced collectors. For new collectors, it's an accessible entry point into the world of coin collecting. It's easy to find, affordable, and still offers the thrill of discovering a hidden gem. For experienced collectors, the challenge lies in finding high-grade examples or rare error varieties. There's something deeply satisfying about searching through old coins and realizing that something so small and overlooked can carry real value. It turns everyday pocket change into a treasure hunt, where each coin has a story waiting to be uncovered. And that's the true appeal of the 1969 D penny. It's not just about money. It's about history, discovery, and the possibility that something ordinary could turn out to be extraordinary. So the next time you come across an old penny, don't ignore it. Take a closer look. Check the date. Look for that small D mint mark. Because hidden among billions of coins, there's always a chance that one of them could be worth far more than you ever expected. And who knows? The next valuable coin might already be sitting in your pocket, just waiting for you to notice it. Imagine reaching into your pocket and pulling out a single penny, a coin so ordinary you almost ignore it. But what if that small copper coin could quietly hold a story of hidden value, rare mistakes, and the kind of discovery that has changed collectors' lives? Today, we're uncovering the truth about the 1970 D Lincoln penny, a coin that many people have seen, but very few truly understand. The 1970 D Lincoln penny is a 1-cent coin produced by the United States Mint in Denver. The small D mint mark you see beneath the date tells you it was struck at the Denver Mint, one of the main facilities responsible for circulating coins across the country. At first glance, it looks just like any other penny from that era. It features Abraham Lincoln on the front, a design that has been used since 1909, and on the back, you'll find the familiar wheat ears that had already been replaced by the Lincoln Memorial by that time. So technically, this coin carries the Lincoln Memorial reverse, a design that had been in use since 1959. Now, to really understand this coin, we need to step back into the year 1970. America was going through a period of economic change. Inflation was slowly rising, and the cost of producing coins was becoming more important than ever. Pennies at that time were still made mostly of copper, about 95% copper and 5% zinc. This gives the coin its rich brown or reddish tone, depending on its condition. Millions of 1970 pennies were produced, which might make you think they are common and not worth much. And in most cases, that's true. But here's where the story becomes interesting. Within those millions of coins, there are small variations, tiny differences, and rare errors that turn an ordinary penny into something collectors are willing to pay serious money for. One of the most talked about features of the 1970 penny is the small date and large date varieties. While this is more commonly discussed with the Philadelphia version of the coin, even Denver minted coins can show subtle differences in the shape and size of the numbers in the date. These variations may seem minor, but to a trained eye, they can mean the difference between a coin worth 1 cent and one worth hundreds of dollars. Another feature that draws attention is the condition of the coin. In coin collecting, condition is everything. A 1970 penny that has been heavily used, scratched, or worn down will usually only be worth face value. But a coin that has been preserved in near-perfect condition, with sharp details and original shine, can be worth significantly more. These are often referred to as uncirculated coins, meaning they were never used in everyday transactions. Then there are error coins, and this is where things get truly exciting. Error coins are mistakes made during the minting process. For the 1970 penny, collectors have found examples with double dies, where parts of the design appear slightly duplicated. This happens when the coin die strikes the design more than once at slightly different angles. The result is a subtle but visible doubling in letters or numbers. There are also off-center strikes, where the coin design is not properly aligned, leaving part of the coin blank. While these errors might seem like flaws, they are actually highly desirable among collectors because they are rare and unique. So why does all of this matter? Because rarity and demand are what drive value in the world of coin collecting. When a coin has a unique feature, a minting error, or an exceptional condition, it becomes more than just currency. It becomes a collectible piece of history. Let's talk about real value. A typical 1970 penny in average condition might be worth only 1 or 2 cents. But in uncirculated condition, it can sell for anywhere from $10 to several $100s, depending on its grade. Coins that are professionally graded and certified at the highest levels have been known to reach prices of over $1,000 in auctions. Error coins can go even higher. A 1970 penny with a clear double die or a dramatic minting error can attract serious attention from collectors. Some of these coins have sold for hundreds or even thousands of dollars, depending on how rare and visible the error is. Now, if you're wondering whether you might have one of these valuable pennies, there are a few simple things you can check. Start by looking at the date and mint mark. Make sure the D is clearly visible under the year 1970. Next, examine the coin closely under good lighting. Look for any unusual features, such as doubling in the letters or numbers, or any misalignment in the design. Pay attention to the color and condition. A bright, reddish coin with sharp details is usually more valuable than a dark, worn one. If you suspect your coin might be special, it's a good idea to have it evaluated by a professional coin grading service. They can confirm its authenticity and give it an official grade, which helps determine its value. It's also important to be aware of fakes or altered coins. Some people try to modify common pennies to make them look like rare varieties. For example, they might alter the date or add a fake mint mark. To avoid this, always compare your coin with verified examples and rely on professional grading when in doubt. Here's something surprising. Many valuable 1970 pennies have been discovered not in collections, but in everyday pocket change. That means these coins have been hiding in plain sight for decades, passing from one person to another without anyone realizing their true worth. Another interesting fact is that coin collecting often runs in families. A jar of old pennies passed down from a parent or grandparent might contain hidden treasures. The 1970 penny is a perfect example of a coin that might be overlooked, yet holds potential value. Collectors today love this coin not just because of its possible value, but because it represents a moment in American history. It's a reminder of a time when coins were still made with high copper content, giving them a weight and feel that modern coins don't have. It also connects collectors to the craftsmanship of the minting process and the small imperfections that make each coin unique. For many collectors, the thrill is not just in owning a rare coin, but in the search itself. The idea that something valuable could be sitting unnoticed in a drawer or a coin jar adds a sense of excitement and possibility. As we come to the end of this story, think about the coins you see every day. That small, seemingly insignificant penny might carry more than just 1 cent of value. It might hold history, rarity, and the potential for discovery. The next time you come across a 1970 Lincoln penny, don't dismiss it too quickly. Take a closer look, because sometimes the smallest things can hold the biggest surprises, and your next great find might already be in your hands. Imagine reaching into your pocket, pulling out a simple penny, and realizing that this tiny piece of copper could quietly hold a story stretching across decades, and maybe even be worth far more than 1 cent. Most people overlook pennies without a second thought. But the 1989 Lincoln penny with no mint mark is one of those coins that hides more than it reveals at first glance. At its core, this coin is part of the long-running Lincoln cent series, first introduced in 1909 to honor President Abraham Lincoln. By 1989, the coin had already become one of the most recognizable pieces of currency in the United States. The version without a mint mark was produced in Philadelphia, where coins traditionally did not carry a mint mark until later years. So, seeing a 1989 penny without a mint mark is actually normal. But that's only the beginning of the story. To understand this coin better, we need to go back to the late 1980s. The United States Mint was producing billions of pennies every year. By 1989, the composition of the penny had already changed from mostly copper to a zinc core with a thin copper coating, a shift that happened in 1982 to reduce production costs. This means your 1989 penny isn't made of solid copper like older coins, but rather a lighter, more cost-efficient material. The design, however, remained classic and familiar. On the front, you see Abraham Lincoln's profile, originally designed by Victor David Brenner. The words "In God We Trust" sit above his head, while "Liberty" appears to the left, and the date 1989 is stamped to the right. On the back, you'll find the Lincoln Memorial, a design introduced in 1959. If you look closely, you can even see a tiny representation of Lincoln seated inside the memorial, making this one of the few coins in the world to depict the same person on both sides. So, what makes a 1989 penny without a mint mark interesting? After all, millions of them were made. The answer lies in the details. While the majority of these coins are common, certain variations and errors can make specific pieces highly collectible. One of the most talked about features among collectors is the possibility of doubling errors. These occur when the coin die strikes the design slightly off alignment more than once, creating a subtle doubling effect in the letters or numbers. On some 1989 pennies, collectors have reported doubling in areas like the date or the word "Liberty." These are not always easy to spot, but when present, they can significantly increase the coin's value. Another detail to watch for is the condition of the coin. In the world of coin collecting, condition is everything. A 1989 penny that has been heavily circulated, scratched, or worn down is typically worth only face value. But a coin that has been preserved in near-perfect condition, often referred to as mint state, can be worth much more. Coins graded MS-65 or higher by professional grading services are especially desirable. There are also rare cases where minting errors go beyond simple doubling. Off-center strikes, where the design is not properly aligned with the coin's edge, can make a coin stand out dramatically. Even small errors like clipped planchets, where a portion of the coin is missing due to a cutting mistake, can turn an ordinary penny into a collector's item. Now let's talk about value. Most 1989 no-mint mark pennies you find in everyday change are worth exactly 1 cent. But if you come across one in exceptional condition or with a noticeable error, the story changes. High-grade examples have sold for several dollars, and in rare cases, error coins have reached prices of $50, $100, or even more depending on the uniqueness and visibility of the mistake. For example, a 1989 penny with strong doubling in mint state condition has been known to attract serious attention from collectors. Similarly, coins with dramatic off-center strikes or other clear minting errors can fetch impressive prices at auction. While these are not everyday finds, they do exist, and they continue to excite collectors who search through rolls of pennies hoping to discover something special. But how can you tell if your 1989 penny is worth more than face value? The first step is careful observation. Look closely at the date and lettering. Use a magnifying glass if possible. Check for any signs of doubling, unusual spacing, or irregular shapes. Next, examine the coin's surface. A coin with a bright, clean appearance and minimal wear is far more likely to have value than one that looks dull and heavily used. Weight can also be a clue. A standard 1989 penny should weigh about 2.5 grams due to its zinc composition. If you find a coin that feels heavier or lighter than expected, it could indicate an error or even a different composition, which is worth investigating further. It's also important to be cautious about fakes. While it's rare for someone to counterfeit a 1989 penny, altered coins do exist. Some people try to modify coins to create the appearance of errors. For example, they might attempt to carve or distort lettering to mimic doubling. Genuine mint errors, however, have a natural, consistent look that is difficult to replicate. When in doubt, having the coin evaluated by a professional grading service can provide clarity and peace of mind. There are also a few surprising facts about the 1989 penny that many people don't realize. For one, even though it's a modern coin, it represents a time when the US Mint was producing coins at an incredible scale. Billions of pennies were made that year, reflecting the demand for small change in everyday transactions before the rise of digital payments. Another interesting detail is how the Lincoln Memorial design, which appears on the reverse of the 1989 penny, remained in use for decades before being replaced in 2009. This means your 1989 penny is part of a long-standing tradition that spanned half a century. Making it a small but meaningful piece of American history, collectors are drawn to this coin not just because of its potential value, but because of the thrill of discovery. There's something uniquely exciting about finding a hidden gem in a pile of ordinary change. The 1989 no-mint mark penny embodies that idea perfectly. It reminds collectors that even the most common-looking coins can hold surprises. For many, the appeal also lies in accessibility. Unlike rare gold coins or ancient artifacts, a 1989 penny is something almost anyone can find. It turns coin collecting into a treasure hunt that doesn't require a huge investment. All it takes is patience, curiosity, and a willingness to look a little closer. And perhaps that's the most fascinating part of this story. The value of a coin like this isn't just measured in dollars. It's measured in the excitement of the search, the history it carries, and the possibility that something overlooked could turn out to be extraordinary. So the next time you come across a 1989 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, don't dismiss it too quickly. Take a moment to examine it. Look for the small details, because hidden within that tiny coin could be a story waiting to be uncovered, and maybe even a value you never expected. And if one simple penny can hold this much mystery, just imagine what else might be hiding in your pocket right now. What if the next penny you pick up isn't just 1 cent, but a hidden piece of American history that collectors quietly search for? And what if a simple 1994 Lincoln penny, with no mint mark at all, could tell a story far bigger than its face value? Most people overlook pennies. They sit in jars, pockets, and drawers, forgotten and ignored. But the 1994 Lincoln penny without a mint mark is different. At first glance, it looks ordinary, copper-colored, worn by time, and easy to miss. But for those who understand coins, this small detail, no mint mark, opens the door to a fascinating journey through history, production, and hidden value. Let's start with what this coin actually is. The 1994 Lincoln penny is part of the long-running Lincoln cent series, first introduced in 1909 to honor President Abraham Lincoln. By 1994, the design had already been familiar to Americans for decades. On the front, you see Lincoln's portrait, calm and dignified. On the back, the Lincoln Memorial stands proudly, a symbol of unity and legacy. It's a design many people grew up seeing every day. Now here's where it gets interesting. In 1994, pennies were minted in multiple locations across the United States. The main mints included Philadelphia and Denver. Coins produced in Denver carry a small D mint mark, but coins from Philadelphia at that time often had no mint mark at all. That's what creates the no mint mark version of the 1994 penny. So technically, a 1994 penny without a mint mark means it was produced at the Philadelphia Mint. And while that might sound common, there's more beneath the surface. To understand why this coin matters, we need to go back to the early 1990s. The United States Mint was producing billions of pennies each year. In 1994 alone, the Philadelphia Mint struck over 6.5 billion Lincoln cents. That's a massive number. On paper, it suggests the coin is extremely common. And in many cases, it is. But here's where collectors start paying attention. Not all coins are created equal. Even within billions of coins, certain pieces stand out because of condition, errors, or unique characteristics. The 1994 no mint mark penny is made primarily of zinc, with a thin copper coating. This composition had been standard since 1982, when the mint changed from solid copper to reduced costs. That means the coin is lighter than older pennies, weighing about 2.5 grams. The design itself remained consistent. Abraham Lincoln's profile on the front, designed by Victor David Brenner, has been a staple of American coinage for over a century. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo, adds a sense of historical importance. If you look closely, you can even see a tiny representation of Lincoln's statue inside the memorial. Now let's talk about what makes certain 1994 no mint mark pennies more valuable than others. Condition is everything. Most pennies in circulation show wear. Scratches, fading, and discoloration are common. But if you find a 1994 penny in near-perfect condition, something collectors call mint state, its value can increase dramatically. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70. A coin graded MS 65 or higher is considered high quality. But when you reach MS 67 or MS 68, you're looking at coins that are extremely rare in such pristine condition. For a 1994 no mint mark penny, reaching that level is difficult because most were heavily circulated. There are also error coins, and this is where things become truly exciting. During the minting process, mistakes can happen. These errors are often small, but they can make a coin incredibly valuable. For the 1994 penny, collectors have found examples with double dies, off-center strikes, and other subtle variations. A double die occurs when the coin's design is stamped more than once, slightly misaligned. This can create a noticeable doubling effect on the letters or numbers. If you ever see a 1994 penny where the text looks slightly duplicated, you might be holding something special. Off-center strikes are another type of error. This happens when the coin isn't perfectly aligned during minting, causing part of the design to be missing or shifted. While this might look like damage, it's actually a collectible feature if it occurred during production. Now let's talk about real value. A typical 1994 no mint mark penny in average condition is still worth just 1 cent. But in uncirculated condition, it can sell for a few dollars. That alone might not sound impressive, but the real value comes at the higher grades. Some 1994 pennies graded MS 67 have sold for over $10 to $20. And in rare cases, coins graded MS 68 can reach over $100 or more, depending on demand and eye appeal. Error coins can go even higher. A strong double die or a dramatic minting error can push the value into the hundreds. In rare auction situations, unique error examples have reached even higher prices, especially when multiple collectors compete for the same piece. But here's the key question. How do you know if your 1994 penny is real or valuable? First, check the date carefully. It should clearly read 1994, with no distortion unless it's a known error. Next, look under the date. If there is no mint mark, it was made in Philadelphia. If you see a D, it's from Denver, which is a different category. Then examine the coin's condition. Is it shiny? Are the details sharp? Or is it worn and faded? The better the condition, the higher the potential value. For error detection, you'll need to look closely. A magnifying glass or a simple coin loop can help. Look for doubling in the letters, unusual spacing, or anything that seems off. Compare your coin to verified examples online or from trusted sources. Also, be cautious of fake or altered coins. Some people try to create errors by modifying coins after they leave the mint. True mint errors happen during production and have specific characteristics. If something looks suspicious, it's always best to have the coin examined by a professional grading service. Here's something many people don't know. Even though billions of these pennies were made, very few survive in perfect condition. Most were used in everyday transactions, exposed to wear, and eventually removed from circulation. That's why high-grade examples are so valuable today. Another surprising detail is how many people still overlook these coins. Every year, rare and valuable pennies are discovered in pocket change, coin rolls, and old collections. It's a reminder that hidden value can exist in the most ordinary places. Collectors love the 1994 no-mint mark penny not because it's the rarest coin ever made, but because it represents opportunity. It's a coin that anyone can find, but only a few recognize its potential. It bridges the gap between everyday currency and collectible treasure. There's also a sense of connection. Holding a 1994 penny means holding a piece of history from a specific moment in time. The early 1990s were a period of economic change, technological growth, and cultural shifts in America. This coin was part of that world, passing through countless hands, witnessing everyday life. And that's what makes coin collecting so fascinating. It's not just about money. It's about stories. Every scratch, every detail, every variation tells something unique, so the next time you see a penny, don't ignore it. Take a closer look. Check the date. Look for a mint mark. Pay attention to the details, because that small, simple coin might be more than it seems. And who knows, the next 1994 no-mint mark Lincoln penny you find could be the one that stands out. The one that turns curiosity into discovery. The one that reminds you that even the smallest things can hold unexpected value. Because sometimes, history isn't locked away in museums. Sometimes, it's right there in your pocket, waiting to be noticed. What if the small, ordinary penny sitting in your pocket right now isn't ordinary at all, but a hidden piece of American history that collectors quietly search for every single day? Today, we're talking about the 1998 Lincoln penny with no mint mark. At first glance, it looks like just another 1-cent coin. Copper-colored, worn edges, familiar face. Most people wouldn't think twice about it. But for those who understand coins, this tiny detail, or rather the absence of a detail, can make all the difference. The 1998 Lincoln penny is part of one of the longest-running coin series in United States history. The Lincoln cent was first introduced in 1909 to honor President Abraham Lincoln, and by 1998, it had already been in circulation for nearly 90 years. These coins were produced in multiple locations, including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Each mint usually marks its coins with a small letter. But sometimes you'll find a 1998 penny with no mint mark at all. And that's where the story begins. A 1998 penny with no mint mark means it was produced at the Philadelphia Mint. For many years, coins from Philadelphia didn't carry a mint mark, and that's why you'll often see pennies without one. So technically, the no mint mark itself isn't rare in the traditional sense. Millions of these coins were made. But what makes certain 1998 no mint mark pennies special isn't just where they were made. It's how they were made. In 1998, the U.S. Mint continued using a design that had become iconic. On the front of the coin, you see the calm, thoughtful profile of Abraham Lincoln. This design was created by Victor David Brenner and has remained one of the most recognizable images in American currency. On the back, you'll find the Lincoln Memorial, a symbol of strength and unity, with even a tiny image of Lincoln's statue visible between the columns if you look closely. The coin itself is made primarily of zinc with a thin copper coating. This composition was introduced in 1982 to reduce costs, so by 1998 it was already standard. The coin weighs about 2.5 grams and has a smooth edge. Nothing unusual there. But sometimes, during the minting process, small mistakes happen. And those mistakes can turn a simple penny into something collectors chase for years. One of the most talked about varieties from 1998 is known as the wide AM reverse. This refers to the spacing between the letters A and M in the word America on the back of the coin. On most 1998 pennies, the A and M are very close together, almost touching. But on the rare wide AM version, there is a clear gap between those letters. This might sound like a tiny detail, but in the world of coin collecting, tiny details can mean big money. The reason this happened is believed to be a mix-up during production. The mint used different dies for proof coins and regular circulation coins. Somehow, a proof-style reverse design, which had the wider spacing, ended up being used on some regular coins. These coins were released into circulation without anyone noticing at the time. Years later, collectors discovered this variation, and suddenly, the ordinary 1998 penny became something much more interesting. Now let's talk about value, because this is where things get exciting. A normal 1998 no-mint mark penny in circulated condition is usually worth just 1 cent. Maybe a few cents more if it's in excellent condition. But a 1998 wide AM penny? That's a completely different story. Depending on its condition, a verified wide AM 1998 penny can sell for anywhere from around $20 to several $100s. In high-grade, uncirculated condition, some examples have sold for over $500. And in rare cases, professionally graded coins with exceptional quality have reached even higher prices at auction. Collectors are willing to pay these amounts because the wide AM variety is genuinely scarce. It's not something you'll find easily, even if you search through thousands of pennies. So how can you tell if you have one? First, take your 1998 penny and look at the back. Focus on the word America. You may need a magnifying glass or even a smartphone camera with zoom. Look closely at the space between the A and the M. If the letters are almost touching, you have the common version. But if you can clearly see a gap between them, you might have a wide AM. There are a couple of other clues as well. On the wide AM version, the letters FG, which are the initials of the designer Frank Gasparo, appear slightly different in position compared to the normal version. These small details help confirm whether the coin is truly the rare variety. But here's something important to understand. Not every coin that looks slightly different is valuable. Lighting, wear, and damage can sometimes create illusions. That's why serious collectors often send their coins to professional grading services for authentication. This ensures that what they have is genuine. Another question people often ask is whether fake 1998 wide AM pennies exist. While it's not common for someone to fake such a specific variety, it's always possible for coins to be altered or misrepresented. For example, someone might try to modify the letters to create the appearance of a gap. That's why careful inspection is so important. Now here's a fun fact that surprises many people. The 1998 wide AM isn't the only coin with this type of variation. Similar errors have been found in 1999 and 2000 pennies as well. Together, these coins form a small but fascinating group that collectors actively hunt for. It's like a hidden treasure series within everyday pocket change. Another interesting detail is how these coins were discovered. They weren't announced by the mint. There was no official statement. Instead, it was everyday collectors, people like you, who noticed something unusual and shared their findings. This is one of the reasons coin collecting remains so exciting. Anyone can make a discovery. Imagine going through a jar of old pennies at home and suddenly finding one that stands out. That moment of realization, when you understand you might be holding something rare, is what keeps collectors searching. Today, the 1998 no-mint mark penny, especially the wide AM variety, holds a unique place in the coin collecting world. It represents a mix of history, mystery, and opportunity. It's a reminder that even in modern times, valuable coins can still slip into circulation unnoticed. Collectors love this coin not just for its potential value, but for the story behind it. It's a coin that teaches attention to detail. It rewards patience. And it proves that you don't need expensive equipment or rare access to find something meaningful. Sometimes, all you need is curiosity and a closer look. Even if you don't find a wide AM, searching through pennies can still be rewarding. You start to notice differences, learn about history, and develop an eye for detail. Over time, what once seemed like ordinary coins begin to feel like pieces of a much larger story. And that's really what coin collecting is all about. It's not just about money. It's about discovery. It's about connecting with the past. It's about seeing value where others see none. So the next time you come across a 1998 penny with no mint mark, don't ignore it. Take a closer look. Check the letters. Examine the details. Because hidden within that small piece of metal could be something far more valuable than you ever expected. And who knows, the next time you reach into your pocket, you might not just be holding spare change. you might be holding a quiet little secret that's been waiting for someone to finally notice it. Imagine finding a simple penny in your pocket and later discovering it could be worth far more than 1 cent. It sounds unbelievable, but for some collectors, that moment has already happened. And today, we're uncovering the story of a coin that most people ignore every day. The 2006 D Mint Mark Lincoln Penny. At first glance, the 2006 D Lincoln Penny looks like any ordinary coin. It's small, copper-colored, and easy to overlook. Millions of these coins were produced, and they still circulate widely across the United States. But beneath that ordinary appearance lies a fascinating story of history, design, and the hidden potential that keeps collectors searching. This coin was minted in 2006, during a time when the United States Mint was continuing its long-standing tradition of producing the Lincoln cent, a coin first introduced in 1909 to honor President Abraham Lincoln. By 2006, the Lincoln penny had already been in circulation for nearly a century, making it one of the most recognized coins in American history. The D Mint mark on this penny tells an important part of its story. It means the coin was struck at the Denver Mint, one of the major facilities responsible for producing coins for circulation. In 2006, the Denver Mint produced billions of pennies to meet everyday demand, which is why most people assume this coin is common and not worth much. But as with many coins, the real story isn't just about how many were made. It's about the details, the small differences, and the rare mistakes that can turn an ordinary penny into something extraordinary. The design of the 2006 Lincoln penny follows the classic look that had been used for decades. On the front or obverse, you'll see the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln. This design was created by Victor David Brenner and has remained largely unchanged since its introduction. Around Lincoln's image, you'll find the words "In God We Trust" above, "Liberty" to the left, and the year 2006, along with the D Mint mark to the right. On the back, or reverse, the coin features the Lincoln Memorial, a design that was introduced in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. If you look closely, you can even see a tiny representation of the statue of Lincoln sitting inside the memorial, a detail that many people miss. In terms of composition, the 2006 penny is made primarily of zinc with a thin copper coating. This change in metal composition actually dates back to 1982, when the U.S. Mint switched from mostly copper coins to zinc cores to reduce production costs. As a result, the 2006 penny is lighter than older pennies, weighing about 2.5 grams. Now here's where things get interesting. Even though billions of these coins were minted, not all of them are identical. Some 2006 D pennies were struck with errors, and these errors are what collectors are constantly searching for. These can include off-center strikes, double die errors where the design appears slightly duplicated, and die cracks that create unusual lines or patterns on the coin. There are also cases where coins were struck with improper alignment, causing the front and back designs to be slightly rotated. While these errors might seem small, they can significantly increase the coin's value depending on their rarity and condition. Condition plays a huge role in determining value. A 2006 D penny that has been heavily circulated and worn down is usually worth only its face value. But a coin that has been preserved in near-perfect condition with sharp details and original luster can be worth much more to collectors. In some cases, uncirculated 2006 D pennies have sold for several dollars, especially when graded by professional services. While that might not sound like a fortune, it's a significant increase from 1 cent. And when you add rare errors into the mix, the value can climb even higher. There have been reports of error coins from this year selling for tens or even hundreds of dollars, depending on the type and visibility of the mistake. For example, a well-defined double die error or a dramatic off-center strike can attract serious attention from collectors who are willing to pay a premium. But here's the important part. Not every unusual-looking coin is valuable. Sometimes what appears to be an error is actually just damage that occurred after the coin left the mint. Scratches, dents, and discoloration are common and usually don't add value. That's why careful inspection is essential. If you're trying to identify a genuine 2006 D Lincoln penny with potential value, start by checking the mint mark. Look for the small D located near the date on the front of the coin. Make sure it's clear and properly formed. Then examine the overall condition of the coin. Are the details sharp? Does it still have its original shine? Next, Look closely for any unusual features. Use a magnifying glass if possible. Check for doubling in the letters or numbers, especially around the date and the word Liberty. Look at the edges of the design for any signs of misalignment or irregularities. If you believe you've found something special, it may be worth having the coin evaluated by a professional grading service. These experts can determine whether the coin is authentic, assess its condition, and assign it a grade that helps establish its market value. Now let's talk about some fun and surprising details. Did you know that the Lincoln penny is one of the longest-running coin designs in U.S. history? By 2006, it had already been in circulation for nearly 100 years. That kind of longevity is rare, and it's part of what makes Lincoln cents so appealing to collectors. Another interesting fact is that even though pennies are often overlooked, they are among the most widely collected coins in the world. Many collectors start with pennies because they are affordable and easy to find, but as they learn more, they begin to appreciate the subtle differences that make certain coins special. The 2006 penny also represents a time just before a major change. In 2009, the reverse design of the Lincoln cent was temporarily replaced with 4 different designs to celebrate the bicentennial of Lincoln's birth. That means the 2006 penny is part of the final stretch of the classic Lincoln Memorial design era. Collectors today love the 2006 Lincoln penny not because it's the rarest coin ever made, but because it reminds them that value can be hidden in plain sight. It's a perfect example of how even the most common objects can hold surprises if you know what to look for. For many people, the thrill comes from the hunt. The idea that a valuable coin could be sitting in a jar, a drawer, or even in your pocket right now is incredibly exciting. It turns everyday change into a treasure hunt, where every coin has the potential to tell a story. And that's really what coin collecting is all about. It's not just about money. It's about history, discovery, and the connection to something larger than ourselves. Each coin has passed through countless hands, traveled across cities and states, and witnessed moments we can only imagine. So the next time you come across a penny, take a closer look. Don't dismiss it as just 1 cent. Look at the date. Check the mint mark. Study the details, because hidden among the ordinary coins of everyday life, there might be something extraordinary waiting to be found. And who knows, the next coin you pick up could change the way you see money forever. What if the penny sitting quietly in your pocket right now isn't just spare change, but a small piece of American history that millions of people overlook every single day? And what if one specific version of that penny, the 2015 Lincoln cent with no mint mark, is far more interesting than it first appears? At first glance, the 2015 Lincoln penny looks completely ordinary. It's a small, copper-colored coin you've probably seen hundreds of times. But this coin represents more than just 1 cent. It carries a story of American history, modern minting technology, and a quiet detail that often confuses collectors and beginners alike: the missing mint mark. Let's start with what this coin actually is. The 2015 Lincoln penny is part of the long-running Lincoln cent series, first introduced in 1909 to honor President Abraham Lincoln. For over a century, this coin has remained one of the most recognizable pieces of currency in the United States. By 2015, the design had already gone through several changes, but the core identity remained the same. On the front, or obverse, you'll find the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, originally designed by Victor David Brenner. Lincoln faces to the right with the word Liberty to his left and the year 2015 to his right. Above his head is the national motto, "In God We Trust." It's simple, clean, and instantly recognizable. On the back, or reverse, the design features the Union Shield, which was introduced in 2010. This shield represents Lincoln's role in preserving the United States during the Civil War. The design shows a strong shield with vertical stripes and a banner across the top reading E pluribus unum, which means out of many, one. It's a powerful symbol of unity and strength. Now here's where things get interesting. Some 2015 pennies have a small letter under the date, like D or S. These letters tell you where the coin was made. A D means it was minted in Denver. An S means San Francisco. But if there's no letter at all, that means the coin was minted in Philadelphia. This is what people call a no mint mark penny. But here's the key point that surprises many beginners. A missing mint mark on modern pennies like the 2015 Lincoln cent is not an error. It's completely normal. The Philadelphia Mint simply doesn't always include a mint mark on certain coins, especially pennies. So if it's normal, why are people talking about it? Why does the 2015 no mint mark penny get attention from collectors? The answer lies in a mix of misunderstanding, curiosity, and the possibility of rare variations. In 2015, billions of pennies were produced. The Philadelphia Mint alone struck a massive number of Lincoln cents without mint marks. Because of this, most 2015 no mint mark pennies are very common. If you find one in your pocket, it's usually worth exactly 1 cent, and this is where things start to get exciting. Not all pennies are created equal. Within these billions of coins, there can be small differences. Tiny errors during the minting process. Slight variations that most people would never notice. And sometimes, these small details can turn an ordinary coin into something collectors are willing to pay much more for. For example, some 2015 pennies have been found with what collectors call die errors. These can include doubled letters, off-center strikes, or unusual surface marks caused during production. While most of these errors are minor, a few stand out enough to attract attention. There have been cases where 2015 Lincoln pennies with noticeable minting errors have sold for anywhere from a few dollars to over $50, depending on the condition and the uniqueness of the error. That might not sound life-changing, but for a coin that started as just 1 cent, it's a significant jump. Condition also plays a huge role. A 2015 no mint mark penny in average circulated condition is extremely common. But if you find one in perfect, uncirculated condition, especially with a strong shine and no scratches, it can be worth more to collectors. High-grade coins, graded by professional services, can sell for several dollars, sometimes even higher if they achieve near-perfect ratings. Another factor that adds intrigue is the composition of the coin. Since 1982, Lincoln pennies have been made primarily of zinc, with a thin copper coating. The 2015 penny follows this same structure. It's not solid copper like older pennies, but it still carries that familiar copper appearance. This modern composition makes the coin lighter and cheaper to produce, but it also means that older collectors sometimes overlook newer pennies. However, dedicated collectors know that even modern coins can have hidden value if the right conditions are met. Now let's talk about how you can tell if your 2015 penny is worth a closer look. First, check the date carefully. Make sure it clearly reads 2015. Next, look just below the date. If there's no letter, you have a Philadelphia minted coin. That's your starting point. Then examine the coin under good lighting. Look closely at the letters in Liberty and In God We Trust. Do any of them appear doubled or slightly blurred? Check Lincoln's face. Are there any unusual marks or distortions? Flip the coin over and inspect the shield. Look for anything that seems off-center or uneven. Most coins will look perfectly normal, but every now and then you might spot something unusual. If you think you've found an error, it's worth comparing your coin with images from trusted sources or even showing it to a professional coin dealer. Sometimes what looks like an error is just damage from circulation. But occasionally it can be something more. Here's another interesting detail. Because the 2015 penny is so recent, many people don't think to save it. They assume only old coins have value. This means that high-quality examples can actually become harder to find over time, especially as more coins enter circulation and get worn down. There's also a psychological factor at play. The idea of a no mint mark feels unusual. It feels like something is missing, and that alone makes people curious. It encourages them to take a closer look, to question what they're holding. And sometimes that curiosity leads people into the world of coin collecting. For many collectors, coins like the 2015 Lincoln penny represent the beginning of a journey. It's accessible, easy to find, and full of small details that reward careful observation. You don't need expensive equipment or years of experience to start learning from it. Here's a fun fact that surprises a lot of people. Even though pennies are often considered the least valuable coin in the United States, they are also one of the most widely collected. Billions are made, yet millions are saved. People search through jars, rolls, and pocket change, hoping to find something unique. Another surprising detail is that some collectors specifically focus on modern coins like the 2015 penny. They look for perfect examples, known as mint state coins, and try to build complete collections by year and mint location. For them, even a common coin can become special if it meets high standards. So why do collectors still care about a coin that's so common? Because collecting isn't just about value. It's about discovery. It's about the thrill of finding something interesting in the most unexpected place. It's about holding a small piece of history and knowing that it passed through countless hands before reaching yours. The 2015 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny may not be rare in the traditional sense. It may not be worth thousands of dollars, but it represents something bigger. It shows how even the smallest details can spark curiosity, how something ordinary can become meaningful when you take a closer look. And every once in a while, among billions of coins, there's an exception. A small mistake, a rare variation, a coin that stands out just enough to catch a collector's EYSO the next time you see a penny. Don't ignore it. Pick it up. Turn it over. Look closely, because hidden in plain sight, there might be more to that coin than you ever expected. And who knows, the next coin you check might be the one that changes the way you see money forever. Imagine pulling a simple penny out of your pocket and realizing it might be worth far more than 1 cent. Not because it's ancient, not because it's made of gold, but because of tiny details most people never notice. Today, we're diving into the story of the 2020 mint Mark Lincoln penny, a modern coin that quietly entered circulation, yet holds surprising potential for collectors who know exactly what to look for. The 2020 Lincoln penny is a 1-cent coin produced by the United States Mint in Denver, which is why you'll see a small D mint mark on the front of the coin. At first glance, it looks just like any other penny you've handled countless times. It features the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front, and on the back, the Union Shield design that has been used since 2010. But behind this ordinary appearance lies a fascinating story of history, design, and hidden value. To understand this coin, we need to step back and look at why it exists. The Lincoln penny has been a cornerstone of American coinage since 1909. Introduced to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Over the years, the design has changed several times, reflecting different eras of American history. By 2020, the penny had already gone through more than a century of evolution, yet it remained one of the most widely used coins in the country. The year 2020 itself was historic for many reasons. It was a time of global uncertainty, economic shifts, and changes in daily life. Despite all this, the U.S. Mint continued its operations, producing millions of coins to keep the economy moving. Among them was the 2020 Lincoln penny, struck in large numbers but under unique circumstances that make certain examples stand out today. Let's take a closer look at the coin's features. The front, or obverse, shows Abraham Lincoln's profile, a design originally created by Victor David Brenner. You'll notice the word Liberty to the left, the year 2020 to the right, and the phrase "In God We Trust" above Lincoln's head. Just below the date is the small D mint mark, indicating it was minted in Denver. Flip the coin over, and you'll see the Union Shield design. This symbolizes Lincoln's role in preserving the United States during the Civil War. The shield represents strength and unity, with the words "E pluribus unum" across the top, meaning out of many, one. It's a powerful message, especially when you consider the challenges the nation has faced throughout history. Now let's talk about what the coin is made of. Like most modern pennies, the 2020 D is not pure copper. Instead, it's primarily made of zinc with a thin copper plating. This composition has been used since 1982 to reduce production costs. While this might make the coin seem less valuable at first glance, the real value often comes from condition, rarity, and errors. And this is where things start to get interesting. Even though millions of 2020 D pennies were produced, not all of them are the same. In fact, some of these coins have small imperfections known as mint errors. These errors can turn an ordinary penny into something collectors are willing to pay real money for. One of the most talked about errors involves doubling. This happens when the design is struck slightly off alignment, causing certain letters or numbers to appear doubled. On a 2020 D penny, you might notice this effect in the date or in the inscriptions. To the untrained eye, it might look like a minor flaw, but to collectors, it can be a sign of rarity. Another possible error is off-center strikes. This occurs when the coin blank isn't perfectly aligned during the minting process, resulting in part of the design being cut off. The more dramatic the misalignment, the more valuable the coin can become. There are also die cracks and die chips, where small imperfections in the minting equipment leave raised lines or bumps on the coin surface. These are often overlooked, but certain patterns can make a coin highly collectible. Now you might be wondering, can a 2020 penny really be worth more than 1 cent? The answer is yes, but it depends on a few key factors. Condition is one of the most important. Coins that have never been circulated, known as mint state coins, can be worth significantly more than those that have been used in everyday transactions. A 2020 penny in perfect condition, graded by professional services, can sell for several dollars, sometimes even higher depending on demand. Error coins can go for much more. Some collectors have paid anywhere from $20 to over $100 for specific 2020 pennies with noticeable errors. While these are not life-changing amounts, they show how even modern coins can hold hidden value. There have also been instances where high-grade examples, especially those with sharp details and flawless surfaces, have been sold at auction for premium prices. These coins are carefully preserved and graded, making them desirable to serious collectors who want the best possible examples for their collections. But here's the catch. Not every 2020 penny is valuable. In fact, most are still worth just 1 cent. The challenge is knowing how to spot the ones that stand out. So, how can you tell if your coin is special? Start by examining the mint mark. Make sure the D is clearly visible and not altered. Then look closely at the date and lettering. Use a magnifying glass if possible. Check for doubling, unusual spacing, or any signs that the design isn't perfectly aligned. Next, inspect the edges and surface. Look for cracks, bumps, or areas where the metal seems uneven. These could be signs of mint errors. Weight and size are also important. A genuine 2020 penny should weigh about 2.5 grams. If it's significantly heavier or lighter, it could be counterfeit or damaged. Speaking of counterfeits, while it's rare for modern pennies to be faked, it's not impossible. Some altered coins are made to look like error coins. That's why it's important to compare your coin with verified examples or have it checked by a professional if you believe it's valuable. Here's a fun detail that many people don't realize. Even though pennies are often overlooked, they are among the most collected coins in the United States. Millions of people search through their change, hoping to find something unusual. And sometimes they do. Another interesting fact is that the cost to produce a penny is actually higher than its face value. This has led to ongoing debates about whether the penny should continue to be made. Yet despite these discussions, coins like the 2020 Lincoln penny continue to capture attention, proving that even the smallest denomination can have a big story. Collectors love this coin not just because of its potential value, but because it represents a moment in time. It's a piece of 2020, a year that will be remembered for generations. Holding one of these pennies is like holding a small piece of history, something that connects everyday life with larger events. There's also a certain thrill in the hunt. The idea that a valuable coin could be hiding in your pocket change adds excitement to something as simple as checking your wallet. It turns an ordinary routine into a treasure hunt. And that's really what coin collecting is all about. It's not just about money. It's about curiosity, discovery, and the stories behind each piece. So the next time you come across a 2020 Lincoln penny, don't dismiss it too quickly. Take a closer look. Examine the details. You might find something that others have overlooked. Because in the world of coin collecting, value isn't always obvious. Sometimes, it's hidden in the smallest details, waiting for someone curious enough to notice. And who knows? The next coin you check could be the one that changes the way you see every penny forever.